Hello, we are now live for our media production and design session. So we have Vicky here to talk about this program. And before we get started, I do want to give a quick land acknowledgement for the land that Carleton is located on, which is the traditional and unceded territories of the Algonquin Nation. So we just want to give an appreciation and respect for the land that we are located on. With that being said, I'll hand it over to you, Vicky. You can get started.
Great, thanks so much. So thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Vicky MacArthur. I am the program director for the Bachelor of Media Production and Design program here at Carleton. And I'm here to talk a little bit about the program today and hopefully answer some of your questions as well. So we are currently in our fourth year of the program. The BMPD, as we call it, launched in the fall of 2018, and we accepted our first cohort in that year. And that group of students now, many of them are actually preparing to graduate this spring. So we're very, very excited about that. So we're currently in the fourth year, which means all 4 of the program years are currently running. And this year we welcomed 51 first-year students into our cohort. Now, the first years in the program mostly consist of grade 12 students, but we do have a few who transfer in from other programs or other universities, depending on what it is they wish to study. Our goal in the program is to keep the cohorts at a maximum of 60 students, and there's a pedagogical reason for this. With every year in the program, we have usually a fall course that will be more theory-based, sort of introducing us to past examples of digital storytelling, different ways to prepare digital stories, different types of methodologies for storytelling and how they shift across different platforms. And then each winter term, that group of 60 students will break off into 2 smaller groups into our workshop courses, which are much more hands-on with weekly deliverables, some group work. And so it becomes the ratios are much better in those courses. We have sort of 1 faculty member and a couple of teaching assistants to groups of about 5 students per group, so about 2 sections of 30. And so this keeps it really student focused. It allows the professors to really get to know the students and provide the kind of support they need when they're designing their new projects. Now that we're fully operating, we have about 240 students by the fall of 2022. So by the time you join us, all 4 years of the program will be very full. Now, when I said that that first group that joined us in 2018, some of them are graduating, it's because a few of them added an extra year to the degree by going off and doing co-op opportunities. So if co-op is something that you have questions about and you want to learn more about, I have some sections about that in the presentation and can also answer some questions about that as we go on. So admission requirements. This is probably one of the 2 biggest questions that I get. One is, do you have a co-op? And the other one is, what admission requirements do I need to get into the program? So we have high school prerequisites that we are looking for. We're looking for high school English and then 1 grade 12 math. We prefer advanced functions, which is in the Ontario high school is the MH4 or F4U, plus your next 4 highest credits. Although I believe any of the grade 12 math are accepted. It just has to be at least 1. The reason we prefer the advanced functions is we actually are a joined program housed primarily in the School of Journalism and Communication, but we also have some of our courses from the School of Information Technology. And those programming courses where you do learn some scripting are much easier if you have that advanced function. So it is the math we recommend, although it's not the required math to get into the program. Projected grade 12 cutoff average is approximately 79 to 80%. It does shift slightly from year to year, depending on how many applicants we get and what the average is. But that's roughly what we're looking at in terms of your application to the program. And there is no portfolio requirement. So it's just a standard university application. You don't have to submit any extra materials. And part of the reason is we want you to have the skills that you need to be able to sort of hit the ground running, but you're not expected to already be a digital storyteller, to already know how to use cameras or Photoshop or how to design virtual reality. We assume everyone is starting off as sort of a blank slate in terms of digital storytelling, and we level you up from there. We just like to have these basic requirements on the way into the program. So it is a 4-year, 20-credit degree program. It is led by the School of Journalism and Communication. So we're primarily housed in the journalism program. But we are, as I mentioned, supported by the School of Information Technology. So of the 20 credits, 3.5 of those credits are courses that are offered by the School of IT, and about 10 are offered by, sorry, think about that, because about 7.5 are MPAD courses, so offered by our core faculty. There are a couple of credits that are journalism courses, so you share with the School of Journalism, and then 8.0 free credits and electives. So they can be almost anything that you wanted to take while you're at university. So this combines nonfiction storytelling with online design and aspects of computer programming. Now, while we teach computer programming from the very beginner, and we have programming courses that are especially tailored to the types of storytelling we do, I do like to emphasize that there is some programming in our academic program. So just to make sure that you're prepared for learning that. We do specialize in Python, which is kind of a fun programming language. So we're not doing anything really difficult like C++. The other cool thing about Python is it's named after Monty Python. So I guess you can ask your parents. Programmers like naming things after stuff they like, which is why we have a programming language called Java and a few other things. So I am supported by a number of great faculty and support staff in the program. So Pam Lamba is our academic advisor. So when you first start in the program and you're learning about your academic audit, which is what tells you how many courses you've taken, what your average is, how many other courses you need to take to graduate, Pam helps you with a lot of that sort of how to learn how to read your academic audit, how to follow the program requirements, how to make sure that you're not sort of caught off guard by missing a class or not taking the right class. She sort of helps with all of that. As program director, I help with sort of the bigger questions, like the types of co-ops that you want to do, helping you sort of navigate the co-op system, questions about grad school, overall questions about the program, and connecting with different types of work opportunities on campus. And then we have Professor Steffi McKnight and Professor Katie Graham, who also teach the core courses in the program. And then Dr. Sojung Bang, who's a postdoctoral fellow who teaches some of our courses here as well. So the program structure, so it's 12.0 core credits that you take. So these are the same required credits that everyone in the program takes. So as you move through with your cohort, you'll have the same media production design and information technology courses that you're taking each semester and taking them in sequence. But there's also room in every single year of the program for a couple of credits worth of electives. And electives are really nice because they let you round out your degree. You can take classes and subjects that maybe interest you, but you didn't have access to in high school. And they're also a great way to add a minor to your program too. Now, as I mentioned before, we do have a co-op option. So this is 12 months of paid work, usually after the fall term of the third year. So as you move through the program with your cohort, if you're doing the co-op option, you would start the fall here with us. And then for the winter, you would start your first of 3 co-op placement terms. And this is arranged by Carleton, and there is a grade requirement, though, to get into that. So as I mentioned, there are minors possible. I think one of the top popular minors in our group is the Sprott Entrepreneurship, which is a 4.0 credit minor, which would fit into that 8.0 credits of free electives. But there's also other subjects, the second most popular one being film studies. As far as minors go, there's an endless list of official minors at Carleton. But then you can also sometimes build minors out of combining a certain number of required courses. And electives, I think, are sort of one of the coolest things about university. And sometimes they lead to unexpected opportunities. I know that in my program, when I was an undergraduate, we had to take a language, and they preferred if you took one of a certain type of language, but you could literally take anything. So you could take like sign language, you could take Latin, you could take Japanese, and I ended up taking Japanese. And then doing an exchange, which is also something you can do when you're at university. You can do a university exchange program where for the summer or for the school year, you go study in a different university in a different country and get credits also for your Carleton degree. So over the 4 years, the students, as I mentioned, will take some MPAD courses designed specifically for our program, take some iTech courses, which are designed, which are offered out of the School of Information Technology, as well as some existing journalism courses that have overlap with some of the stuff that we discuss here. So things like freelancing, media law, things that pertain to journalists that also pertain to some of the professional practice of our students as they go on to sort of have their careers. So this is an example of the flowchart that we have for the program. It is hosted on our website, but it sort of shows what the progression of the program looks like. So if you read it here, you're looking sort of from the top to bottom along that sort of left column. You have the year 1 fall, year 1 winter, year 2 fall, year 2 winter, and so on and so forth. And then across each of those rows, you see the courses that you will be taking if you followed that progression. So year 1 in fall, you'll be taking 2 iTech courses and 1 MPAD course, your Introduction to Storytelling. So everyone in your cohort will be taking those classes together. You also have 2 free electives. That's where you can start taking courses towards your minor. You can start taking courses that are just sort of interesting to you, different things to round out your degree. And as you can see in the year 1 winter, so after you pass those courses and we have the winter break, you come back and you're taking iTech 1400 or 1401, which is Intro to Programming, MPAD 1002, which is my course on augmented reality. And then you have 3 electives in that term. So this is basically how you progress through the program. And this is color coded. So all the red courses here are the information technology courses that are shared with IT. So students in their programs are also taking some of those courses. The light blue, there's 2 shades of blue here. There's the light blue that are the free electives, and there's the other light blue that are the iTech courses. Those 2 courses, so 2100 in the second year and 3100 in the third year, are special courses that were created specifically for our program. And so those are data visualization, so learning basically how to present stories using data, and immersive storytelling, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on because we had something really cool happen with that class last year. Now, normally we'd be doing our presentations in this building here. This is the Richcraft Hall on campus, sometimes known as the River Building. And this is the current home of the School of Journalism and Communication. So your MPAD instructors' offices are all here. Some, but not all of our classes are taught here. It's one of the most beautiful buildings on campus, but they're building some new ones that might be more beautiful. So I can't guarantee anything by the time you come here. But generally speaking, it's a really nice building. We have a view of the river, which is why it used to be called River Building. We have a Tim Hortons and a lot of really great classroom design in there as well, too. But when you're taking your university courses, even though our offices are located in that one building, classes can actually be scheduled anywhere on campus. So if you're taking a larger lecture course, possibly one of your electives, you might be in a large classroom like this one here, which is very sort of lecture centric. So the prof will stand at the front of the room at the podium. Not shown here, there's probably multiple screens behind them that their lecture would be projected upon, and you would sort of take notes in those seats. But we have other types of classrooms too. So smaller classrooms when you're in sort of seminar style classes, or smaller lecture cohorts with, say, the information technology students. You might be in a room like this here, which has sort of more movable seats. It's a smaller room that's going to seat about 30 or 40 people, and it's a little bit more interactive that way. And then in my class, we tend to teach in these interactive learning classrooms. And these are, I think, some of the coolest classrooms on campus because they very much have the vibe of small tech startup in terms of how the furniture is arranged and the types of affordances that the room has. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of different tables that can easily be relocated where you can plug your laptop into them. There's screens all around the room that I can project my lecture to all the screens on all 4 walls, or you can plug your own laptop into one of those and show your current team's project up on the wall from the comfort of your seat. There's also whiteboards everywhere. There's large ones on wheels and small ones that you can hang on the wall and take down and sort of work on problems in. So rooms like this are really great because they're much more interactive. They don't have that sort of eyes forward, everyone's sitting in rows kind of feeling. It sort of creates a much more interactive and collaborative type learning experience. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the core courses on the MPAD side, just to give you some idea of the types of things that you might be doing in your projects and your courses. So as I mentioned, the fall courses with the MPAD course credit are larger lecture-based courses. So there'll be things like learning the history of digital storytelling, learning about say previous interactive fiction, text-based video games, early examples of journalism that used web pages, virtual reality, augmented reality, and just kind of learning how storytelling changed and how theories of storytelling evolved with each of those technologies. Because when we're thinking about storytelling on digital technologies, it's not quite the same. When you think about the book versus the movie, for example, the movie usually is never as good as the book when adapting from one format to another. And the same kind of thing happens when you move from the movie to the video game to the VR experience. Every platform tells stories a different way and presents the story world to the reader or viewer slightly differently. So we talk about how and why these changes happen and how to effectively tell stories, nonfiction stories in particular, on these different platforms. So in this one here, this is one of our lecture style courses, which gives you an overview of the history and theory of digital storytelling. And students might work on different types of projects. For example, students in this group created a VR music experience. One created a story-based redesign of the Immigration Canada website. We've had students in this course do short animations, 360 videos. So all different types of projects, basically learning how to tell stories on these different platforms. MPAD 1002. This is the course that I teach in the winter. So you would start in the fall, 1001, with everybody in your incoming class. So all approximately 60 of you in one class. And then in the winter, you'll break off into one of two groups that meets for 3 hours on, I don't know what the days are next year, but this year it's Tuesday and Thursday. So you either meet for 3 hours on Tuesday or for 3 hours with the other group on Thursday. And this is more of a workshop style course. So the focus here is on prototyping digital stories, usually with industry partners. In the past, we've partnered with the Canadian Museum of Nature, and we've also partnered with the Science and Technology Museum for this project. So here students learn how to develop interactive stories using augmented reality. And I like choosing augmented reality for that course for a couple of reasons. Number one, no matter how simple a prototype is, it always looks cool in AR. AR is like Pokemon Go and other types of experiences, basically where you have like digital 3D artifacts appearing in the real world. So it's really fun to develop for, and you kind of get this really neat sort of credibility among your peers for being able to program your own custom Snapchat filters afterwards. But also, a lot of people don't really know very much about augmented reality. So you'll come into the course without all these preconceived notions, in the same way where if I were teaching it about educational video game design. A lot of people have played video games. They have some ideas about what makes a good game, what doesn't make a good game. Same with films or websites. But AR is kind of new to a lot of people. So we sort of don't start off with many preconceived notions. We get to kind of build our theories from the ground up. So it's a lot of fun to do. The second year courses, in particular MPAD 2002, which is the Introduction to Visual Communication. This is taught by Professor Graham, and she basically takes the students to, I think they've worked with the NAC the last 2 years, and look at their different existing art installations that they have and develop digital versions of them. So there's a bunch of different projects that came out of that class where they created AR and VR, projection mapping, and different types of visual catalogs and interactive stories about the art that was already at the NAC. And this is the course that I had promised before I would come back to and talk about. This is the Information Technology 3100, so immersive storytelling course. And last year, this was taught by Sojung Bang, who's a postdoctoral fellow here with us. And she is fantastic because she has a history as a VR artist and a VR filmmaker. And so she brings this really great background where she has these amazing technological skills with the technology, but she's a trained artist. So she really straddles the fence of like qualitative and quantitative work. And so what she did was she taught these students who had never used a game engine before, in the third year of the program, how to basically design their own 360 scenes, set up cameras, set up 3D objects, provide sound, changing camera angles, lighting, all that stuff, and design their own stories. And so in the first offering of the course, she had them focus on doing a sort of virtual reality autobiographical short film. So the students created films that were between 2 to 4 minutes long and just sort of used VR to describe their feelings about the pandemic. This was the first offering of the course. This was winter 2021. So I think we were in another lockdown at that point. Students in particular had been learning online for more than a year. And many were really feeling, the pressure, the weight of, the effects on their mental health and everything. And so this was really sort of a therapeutic assignment where they got to express those feelings in a different medium. And they've really used the affordances of the medium really well to set up these scenes, like their own rooms, their study environments, their lives, and sort of show how these things sort of felt to them. And so when the course was done, a bunch of students from the course worked with Sojung to create a compilation of them. So she helped them polish them a little bit more beyond what they were able to do in the course, compile them, and they were submitted to 3 different international film festivals, and it premiered in Los Angeles in the fall, and it's premiering overseas again in a couple of weeks. So it was really amazing to not only have this portfolio item when they were done, but also before they even get to the 4th year of the course, they have films that they're a part of that they have director credits for, appearing in international film festivals, VR film festivals, animation film festivals. So it was a really, really fantastic experience. So all around, we're really excited about that course and the work that the students did with her. And then MPAD 4000 is our capstone project. So whether or not you go off to do co-op, when you come back in the 4th year, you're working in small teams again. But this course is much more sort of project heavy. So whereas in the other workshop courses, we're still introducing some theory and a lot more guided projects of a very specific nature. By the time you get to capstone, you're paired with individually, each group is paired with an industry partner of some kind. So nonprofit, NGO, museum, any type of sort of community partner. And then developing a project for them. It can be rebranding social media campaigns. It can be creating interactive game for them. It can be creating a 360 film. It can be setting up interactive fiction of some kind. So basically data storytelling projects, just about anything you can imagine. The teams work on for the entire year with 2 faculty guiding it. And then at the end of the year, they get to present them to their peers. And they also, again, have this really great portfolio piece. Now, another thing that I want to talk about today, for those of you who haven't followed us yet on our social media, we have this really great program that is funded partially by the university and partially by an external funding agency, where we provide students with the opportunity to, outside of courses, create their own storyteller series and present these to the world. So basically, we have a few of these right now posted on our social media, and I'll share the links with those closer to the end of the presentation. So, a little bit about the program, a little bit about the courses, a little bit about sort of how long it takes and the kinds of things you can do. Where do you go afterwards? So I get a lot of questions, of course, after do you have co-op and what are the admission requirements is where might I work if I have a career like this? Some of the different organizations that our students tend to look at, because again, our emphasis is on nonfiction interactive digital storytelling, are things like charities and not-for-profits, really large organizations, for example, like the Red Cross, the UNHCR, all these different organizations that do heavily rely on social media campaigns, digital storytelling. I know, for example, the UNHCR often does like 360 video documentaries of some of the work they do, interactive digital games to teach people about refugee issues and human rights issues. So again, charities and nonprofits, NGOs, corporations. Corporations are very big on things like social media branding, aspects of data storytelling that inform marketing decisions, creating sort of different types of training documentation, digitization of different types of activities happening within the corporation itself. Online developers and production houses. So maybe you get hired by a company to serve in a digital media role, for example, or maybe you end up working for a production company that applies for RFPs, right, or contracts to do this work for different companies and NGOs as they need it. Media organizations. So even thinking more broadly about journalism, So many journalism organizations are focusing very heavily on their social media presence, how to present stories across multiple platforms. Organizations like the New York Times actually have a section, if you use their app, devoted to virtual reality journalism and augmented reality journalism, as well as several interactive website versions of stories. Healthcare and environment are also always looking for ways to communicate public health information to people as needed in different types of formats. And educational and research institutions, being able to provide education and training using interactive digital technologies, being able to communicate with the public in terms of different types of digital platforms. So basically anyone who might have to take some sort of real world data storytelling and turn it into some kind of an interactive. These are the types of organizations, the types of jobs that our students are looking at. And governments. Governments always have a ton of websites that have lots of information on them. And so more specifically, so those are like types of places you might work, but what are the careers? And the easiest way to look at this, because again, we just have our first cohort graduating now, is what types of CoOp jobs are they getting? We've had students complete now 3 terms in the first cohort, and our second cohort has now started their first semester of co-ops. We've had 4 semesters, now 5 of co-op students successfully completing their work. So they're getting hired as UX or user experience designers. So someone who sort of works with software developers, for example, to make sure that something that you're building is not only user friendly, but that people don't get frustrated while they're using it. User experience is actually a very important part of interactive digital storytelling. Digital curators, many museums, many different orgs that might have documents, either physical documents like papers that need to be digitized, museums that might be creating 3D scans of fragile artifacts, maybe 3D printing newer, safer versions to share with the public, working with different types of textiles to create artifacts from digitized content. Social media content creators is a very popular one. A lot of our students really love working on things like social media campaigns. We have an entire course devoted to that type of work. And so we've had students go on to do social media for very large companies, social media for government, and social media for NGOs as well. Technical editors, so writing technical documentations, there's a certain level of needing to keep the correct facts and keep them accurate, but also have them readable, user-friendly, and sensible in the way they're structured. So editing technical documents to make sure that they're well written, but still technically accurate is a very, very important skill. Digital marketing specialists, as I mentioned before, that Sprott entrepreneurial minor is one of our top 2 minors among students, the other being film. The film students really like things like the project that they did with Sojung and looking at things like 360 documentary, whereas the digital marketing specialist might look at things like big data to help drive marketing decisions, pairing that in with the sort of social media data that you might have on all your different sort of platforms, determining which types of content are having the most reach and being the most successful in bringing customers in, which ones fit with the brand the best. So understanding both the data or quantitative side, as well as the visual presentation and storytelling side, is a very sort of multifaceted, interdisciplinary kind of person. Production coordinator, the producer, the person who makes sure that all the content and everything is presented the right way, in be it the 360 video, VR presentation, interactive website, any sort of type of production, basically. Our students, because they take a variety of courses on everything from the data to social media to ethics to law to programming to VR and AR development, they have a really broad skill set that makes them really well suited to this skill. They can speak to the specialists or sort of communicate with them because they get the lingo of the different types of production environments quite well. And web developer. A lot of our students really enjoy the web programming courses that we have, along with the visual communication courses. So they learn how to use various aspects of the Adobe Creative Cloud, for example, to create the visual content for web pages, as well as the interactive content too. So I like to make sure that I'm always promoting our social media because we're very active on there. We present a lot of our different news on there, things that are happening in the program. We often do student takeovers where we're able to pay students a small stipend for a week to plan their posts across all our different platforms. So when you see on there our student social media takeovers, that's actually our students taking over all of the channels for a whole week, planning their own content, sharing information about the projects they're working on, things they like about the program, maybe things that they would like differently in the program, depending on which courses they like the most and maybe not the most. They share their projects. They share sort of tips for students who want to come into the program. Sometimes they share the types of study habits that work for them, the different types of things they do when they're not studying, the clubs they're part of. There's also links to our students' official society, which sells really cool sweaters. But basically, we're very, very active on there. We like to use that to promote our research, to talk about job opportunities, to talk about achievements of our students. So the Instagram at BMPD_CU is probably the most, I think we design most of our content for that one specifically, but we also duplicate our content across the Facebook and Twitter as well too. So if you want to check those out, I can also bring the links back in towards the end if anyone didn't grab those. So as just an example here, our Instagram page is quite busy. We post every day, looking at things like we have the most recent labs. So ProtoHive, Include Lab, Sims, and Art Engine are each of our labs that we're affiliated with. So each lab has its own focus. Steffi McKnight's ProtoHive focuses quite largely on digital sort of art practice and research creation. My Include Lab focuses on inclusive XR technologies. Katie is affiliated with Sims, which works on very large scale digital projects, things like the digitization of Parliament, all the rooms in Parliament before it shut down was all done by Sims. And Sojung's Art Engine, which focuses again on practice-based research. So within each of these labs, these are facilities where we're doing our research. We are supervising our graduate students who are helping on those projects. But also we hire undergraduate students from the BMPD program to also support our projects. So right now in the Include Lab, I have fourth year student Jada, who is actually helping us on a VR project, which is funded by NSERC. And we also have students, a former student who was helping with the design of animations to use in an augmented reality app to teach Japanese. So a lot of really cool projects that are happening, and they're always focused or hosted here. So if you want to see what's going on, this is a great place to do it. So I'm going to end the presentation part there with our contact information. Our website is there for the Media Production and Design program. My contact information, as well as Pam's. She is media production at carleton.ca. If you have more questions about the program, the courses, the requirements, and things like that beyond the session, obviously I'll still be here to answer questions. But that is basically it for me. So thank you. I'm gonna pop the admission requirements into the chat. Okay, so oh my gosh, all these messages came in and no one was here to tell me. I'm so sorry. Okay, so let's see. Oh, Pam's in here. Thank you, Pam. I appreciate that. So yes, Pam's got the admissions link there and various questions. Computer requirements. We do send out a letter to incoming students, and it does have some of the minimum requirements for some of the software. Generally speaking, though, for first year, if you have one already, you don't necessarily have to run out and buy a new one because I know the software we use in the programs, it doesn't require like top of the line until second year. So depending on what you have, you might still be able to work with what you currently own. And if you hold off for a year, if you're able, then of course you get more bang for your buck, because Moore's law says that as the price of computers goes down, their technology capabilities inversely goes up. Instagram. Another thing that I help with when advising students is students who are thinking about grad school, which is maybe not on the top of your mind when you're first, not even in undergraduate just yet. But some students are thinking about going on to do grad school, so a master's, say, after their bachelor's degree. And there are a few different pathways at Carleton, for example, where you could go after you finished your Bachelor of Media Production and Design. One is the Master's of Information Technology, which some of our faculty co-supervise students over on that side. So those are students looking at digital media projects. Plus, it's pretty cool because the acronym is MIT, so you're studying MIT. There's also the Master of Digital Humanities. So if you're more interested in the qualitative or art side of digital media storytelling, then that might be a good fit. And there's the Masters in Human Computer Interaction, or the MHCI. And this is if you're more interested in like the user interface, design, accessibility, user experience kind of side of things. Then you can maybe go into that program. And so I mentioned that here just because sometimes you might be thinking about it in first year. Sometimes you're not thinking about it until you're just about to graduate. But these are the types of advising that we also do, like helping you understand, well, how do you apply to that program? What kinds of scholarships could you get? What's the deadline for applying for those? Because many people can do their grad school with some funding. OGS is an Ontario Graduate Scholarship, which pays $15,000 a year. And then there's SSHRC and NSERC, which pay $17,500 a year. So it's always really nice to have scholarships when you're thinking about grad school. But there's always, you guys seem to have to apply for those almost a year in advance. So it's always good to know going forward. The other types of projects that we've worked on, I know we had students who were building social media campaigns, students who were doing fully sort of embodied VR installations. We've had students design sort of 3D models for different types of things. We have students who specialize in photography, so they're really good at sort of creating digitized assets. In our first year course, students were doing storyboards, and some of them turned them into animated storyboards for final projects. Right now in my course, I have students working in augmented reality. So they're using a free software to design AR projects that can be ported to their cell phone to share with friends and family. So they're taking things like board games, books, different types of artifacts they can find around their home. One person's doing their abuela's paintings and basically doing an augmented reality story on top of that. So it's really cool. I wouldn't say most students. I would say probably just slightly under half of the students do the co-op year. Partially, I think, because there is a grade requirement associated with it. So you have to maintain a certain average to get into co-op. But also some people are deciding whether or not they want to do, because it adds an extra year basically to the program, right? Because you're leaving your cohort in the middle of the third year, doing 3 working terms, and then coming back. So it just depends. But that's about how many that we have right now. Thanks for that, Pam. So yeah, Pam has put the co-op requirements in the window there as well. Should have brought a bottle of water. Doing a lot of talking today. Yeah, and as Pam notes, it takes 5 years with the co-op and 4 years without the co-op, provided that you're taking all the courses, the full course load every single year. There are some people who benefit from taking a slightly reduced course load, either due to their work commitments or their own sort of ability. Like some people just find they do better with 4 classes a term instead of 5. And so when that happens, it does also add a little bit of time. And if that is something that you end up doing, it's always very, very important to talk to Pam to make sure that if you're choosing to take 4 instead of 5, you're not accidentally getting rid of the wrong one. Because what you can have happen with that sort of flow chart that I showed you is courses become prerequisites for later courses. So for example, I teach that really, really great 1002 class in the winter term on AR, augmented reality. but you need to take the fall 1001 to be able to take it. So if, for example, you thought, I'll just get rid of this 1001, it's the least convenient to my schedule, that creates a chain reaction where then you can't take 1002, and then you can't take all these other courses until you come back and take that one. So when in doubt, when you're not sure if you're taking the right courses or you're fulfilling the minor correctly or whatever, it's always a good idea to ask Pam. Pam knows everything. Thumbs up. We're also, I think, like a very close-knit program. It's been tricky, you know, during the pandemic and students sort of learning from all around the world and such. But they, you know, we run, my class has a Discord, so we're posting messages throughout the week and playing a game called Real or Augmented Reality, where I post pictures of art. And then basically students try to guess if it's real or not. I'm always trying to trick them because they're getting really good at it now. The Student Society runs its own Discord as well. They run social events, things like organized skating on the canal and things like that. So yeah, it's a really nice group. And I think that limiting it to 60 students a year keeps the cohorts small enough that you can get to know everybody. Your professors will know who you are. So if we see you in the hallway or, you know, at the subway or Tim Hortons or something, you know, we recognize you, we say hi to you. So it's a really nice feel. It's a little different from, you know, those programs that accept like 900 students in their first year program. So you're definitely not a number with us. So if there's no other questions, I'll wait another minute in case anyone types anything. But thanks so much for coming to hear us talk. We do have an in-person event next week as well. So my colleagues will be there to present for that. It's been really nice coming to talk about the program. I really like what we're doing here. It's very different from a lot of other digital media programs. So it's always fun to sort of share some of the cool things our students are doing, especially even in the first year. Like the cool stuff isn't all in the upper years like it is with some programs. Like we're doing really cool stuff in the first year. So, you know, come check it out and see the kinds of stuff that you can build. Pam, did I forget anything? I don't know. I feel like we covered everything. Thanks. It's a really nice anime icon. I like that. We also talk about anime in my class, so it's another good reason to come.